Welcome to Conversation and Connection with Corey. That's me, where we have real people, real talk, and real connection. Today I'm excited because I get to have a conversation with Blaise Harris, aka the Dope Black Therapist. Blaise, welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to take your time to meet with us today. You could have been anywhere in the world, but yet you chose to share a small amount of your time with us, and for that, we're thankful.
And I think it's dope to be here, and I'm just excited to just make things happen and just be a guest with you today. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you again. So, we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to let you kick it off by giving us an introduction.
okay, my name is Blaise Harris. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I am an EMDR certified therapist, EMDR approved consultant in training. I am the owner of G Squared Consulting and Counseling Services. I'm an author, a speaker, a former firefighter, a single father and very proud father of two, and motivator and educator. And I'm here to try to make some good in this world.
Awesome. Awesome. So, you said that you were a licensed counselor, correct?
Mhm.
Now, is that something that you always wanted to do? Like when you were younger, did you say, I want to be a clinician, I want to be a counselor?
So, it's weird. In the beginning, I wanted to be a firefighter and or a police officer or an action star. And that's how it all started when I was little. But when I got into high school, I had a really awesome guidance counselor. And I wanted to be a guidance counselor because she helped me out so much. And I wanted to help other students, learn where they wanted to go to school and how to get ready for school and how to deal with the stresses of peer pressure and so forth, right? And then I learned how much paperwork guidance counselors had to do. And then and I didn't like that aspect. So those dreams kind of went away. And there was a time where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, So, when I graduated from NC State with a BA in psychology. Nobody tells you you can't do nothing with a BA in psychology. You got to go to grad school to do that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. So after I graduated, I did a year in AmeriCorps, traveling up and down the East Coast, doing, community service work, working, building homes with Habitat for Humanity, working with school programs, and just doing so many awesome things. And then I taught for a little while for Durham and Wake County Public Schools. Left there, became a firefighter for 14 years. And once I went through the fire department and learned some things, going through a divorce and with my own trials and tribulations with, depression and mental health issues and suicidal ideation and suicide attempts, I recognize that if I can do it and I'm always smiling and I'm always happy and I'm always the person that doesn't have anything wrong, if I can go through that stuff and nobody know about it, how many other police, fire, EMS, dispatchers go through the same thing, right? So I said I wanted to go to school initially to be a counselor for first responders, you know. So I started grad school at North Carolina Central University. Get there and I'm like, wait a minute. Black folks don't go to therapy either. So okay. So now I'm in this perfect position where I'm a black man. I'm also a first responder. That's my niche. So I want to work with and help black men and first responders treat and process their trauma. And so it was kind of like a full circle moment. I was like, I didn't want to do, I want to be a firefighter. I became a firefighter. I wanted to be a counselor and ended up becoming a counselor. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's crazy how like your steps line up and you don't even know it, like as things are happening and moving parts. And then at the end of the day, you look and then you have this beautiful masterpiece and you're like, oh, okay, that's why I did all these other things to
Hmm.
finally get here, right?
Hmm.
But you said something very important. You said, I realize Black people don't go to therapy either,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
What do you think keeps Black individuals or even people of color
Hmm.
from initiating therapy?
Several different things contribute to that. A lot of it is our culture. We're supposed to just suck it up and just keep on dealing with it regardless. We are just supposed to deal with our stuff because nobody's going to be able to hear what we have. Nobody's going to be able to help us with the stuff that we need to help with because a lot of people don't understand the things that we go through. Then there's the other part of stigma. Let's keep it to yourself. I don't want to, I don't want my business out in the street. If I go to a therapist, then everybody gonna know that I'm going to a therapist, and everybody's gonna know my business, and that therapist is gonna tell my business, and I'm not trying to do any of that or deal with any of that. Then well, I don't need to go to therapy because I got the church. Jesus is gonna help me out. Jesus is gonna be the only thing that I need to help me get through this tough time. And if it ain't Jesus, then I'm gonna go to the barbershop. I could talk about all my problems at the barbershop or the nail salon or the hair salon, and everybody's gonna handle all of my business and I'm gonna be okay. The reality is a lot of those people that you go to and that you try to talk to are dealing with the same stuff and they don't know how to deal with it themselves. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. They can go hand in hand. And I tell them, I was like, yo, so I know a couple of scriptures, but you don't want me leading the flock every Sunday because I don't know the word like that, you
Right.
know? So, and that's the thing. So, pastor or reverend or deacon or whomever, they might know a few things, but they don't know everything when it comes to mental health. Same thing, I got a fresh cut baldy that I do myself. I do that on my own. You don't want me cutting everybody hair because if I go to your shop and I start cutting hair, everybody gonna have a bald head. That's it. And it ain't gonna be shaped up well. So you might have a patch here, a patch there. You know, just because I can do that doesn't mean that I you want me cutting everybody's hair. And I'm fortunate enough where there are several barbers who are getting mental health first aid training, who are understanding that some of the things that these brothers are dealing with is really heavy. And they are learning the lingo and how to actually help brothers navigate that difficult period for them or can point them in the right direction of where to go. Same thing when it comes to churches, same things when it goes to nail salons and beauty shops. People are learning how to interact with their customers and deal with the traumatic things that they might hear in a space and learning where to send their clients if things get to be too much for them.
Absolutely. And that is great. A lot of time we do first aid training, but nobody really thinks outside of the medical aspect of first aid and what
Hmm.
it may look like when somebody's having like psychosis or like a manic episode or
Hmm.
something like that. So I do think that that's very important. And that's good to know that you have these individuals that are in places where people feel comfortable having those conversations and that they're skilled and knowledge in those areas. So that's good to know. All
Hmm.
right. So, is there a certain population of individuals that you prefer to work with or that you consider your area of specialty?
Well, like I said, my specialty is treating trauma in Black men and first responders. I have 14 years of experience being a firefighter. I got 46 years of being a Black man. So I know some of the ins and outs of what goes on with both groups. I don't see kids and teenagers because for me, that I know what my limits are. And I know when I was a firefighter, if I went to a call when it dealt with kids, it was too much and too heavy for me. And I don't want to cause more harm or overstep ethical boundaries by being protective dad, in sessions because that's not my place. I can't do that. I can't be a father to a client because I want to. I'll go pop a bear in a heartbeat, and I'm just like, come here, baby, let me hold you, let me come over here real quick and do all this. And if their parent is the one that's causing the problem, I'll be like, yo, we're gonna have a problem. I don't want to do that. What I mean? And I can't do that because I like my job too much. And I got too much to lose, to 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 let hood Blaise come out. So I know where my limits are. So I give me 18 and up so I could talk to folks, in a way that they need to be talked to. And while I have experience, as a middle school teacher, I'm so out of the loop now. I no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I can't do it. So
I often said these kids are different.
yes.
Every time I see things and hear things, I'm like, we would have never did that. Like,
Hmm.
where did that come from? And is that really a thing? So I'm taken back and surprised
Hmm.
at some of the stuff that I hear and I see. And my daughter, she's 13. And
Hmm.
sometimes talking to other 13-year-olds, when she comes home, I'm like doing that whole transference thing. You're not doing this and you're not doing that. And
Hmm.
what about this? And she's like,
Hmm.
Mom, like, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
So, you bring up a good point there.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, okay. So the individuals that you do currently work with, is there like a certain theme that you see, or is there certain challenges that you see amongst those groups of individuals?
Well, it's gonna be different for everybody. One thing that might be difficult for me might not be an issue at all for you. While I said my niche is Black men and first responders, I see everyone. And so I see a big thing that I see a lot of is how to actually emote and how to actually express yourself. And, a lot of people are, well, I get angry all the time and I deal with this stuff and I keep this stuff to myself. And it's like, I don't know how to process what I'm feeling. I don't know how to actually feel what I'm feeling, or I'm afraid to feel what I feel because if I do, then what's that going to look like for me or the people that I love or the people who are close to me? So it's trying to show people that it's okay to actually feel and letting them know that it's okay to be angry sometimes because anger is a natural emotion. Anger is one of those things is like it's like all of us feel that, you know, and you don't have to be afraid of it. There's ways that you can control it, there's ways that you can manage it, and there's ways that you can use it to your advantage if you know how to. And not only that, it's just like people deal with loss, or they deal with being the primary caregiver, or they deal with constantly working and checking in on everybody else, but nobody ever checks in on them to be sure that they're okay. And like people are so afraid of how they'll be perceived if they take time off, or what it'll look like. Oh man, I can't take care of myself. I take care of myself. That's selfish.
Hmm.
And I'm like, no, it's not. It's necessary. Like you wonder why you get sick so much, or you wonder why that you have this pain in your neck, or this pain in your stomach, or this pain in your knees, or this pain in your back, is because you're not that your body's going to let you know you need to sit down somewhere. Your body's going to let you know it's like, hey, you need to get this proper rest. Your body's going to let you know it's like, hey, you need to talk to somebody about something, because if you don't, it could lead to cardiac events. It could lead to low back pain. It could lead to, how people like clench their jaw so tight because they don't know how to, you know what I mean? And it's like they deal with that. And it's just like, breathe,
Hmm.
take that time off for yourself. Take that time to reset, and it's like a lot of times people don't even know how to do that, or are afraid to do it, and a lot of times if we were brought up in an environment where we are supposed to, like, you think about it as kids, you're supposed to be seen and not heard, right? So if I'm upset, I can't tell you that I'm upset because I'm just supposed to be seen. I ain't supposed to say nothing.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
not supposed to have feelings. So, and it's just like, all right, so I'm just gonna keep on carrying this. I'm gonna keep on carrying this and keep on carrying this. And so we'll take this stuff and we'll push it down. We'll take some more and we'll push it down. We'll take some more and push it down. Take some more and push it down. It's like we're stacking and stacking that trauma over and over and over and over and over again, right? And somebody will be like, "Hey, Blaise, how you doing?" They're like, "Ah, get out of my face, before I smack the mess out of you." And it's just like, I ain't mad at you. I'm mad at something that happened yesterday, 10 years ago, all of this stuff, and you just happen to be there because you asked me how I was doing. You're not the problem. You're not the issue. You're not the concern. You just happen to be there. And so I try to teach people how to manage that and how to work through that and how to take a few steps and take a step back and look at what's really going on. Are you what are you upset about? What is it that really what is it that's really bothering you? Is it really this? Or is this something that or is this something that's happened, years ago and you're just now allowing yourself the opportunity to talk about it? And it's usually, oh man, I've been thinking about this. I've been dealing with this for years and I don't know how to deal with it.
Hmm.
So what I do, I take pride in teaching my clients how to manage all of those feelings and all of those behaviors and all of the stuff that they are afraid to deal with and don't know how to deal with.
Okay. Okay. I feel that. Feel that. So, oftentimes when people are thinking about therapy, they say, you need to find your person, you need to,
Mm,
find someone that you kind of mesh with. So for
hmm.
someone who's considering, like on that little teeter-totter,
Oh
considering
yeah.
therapy, what are some things you think they should take into consideration when they are looking for a therapist?
Okay. It's a few things that they can definitely take into consideration when they think about a therapist, like um looking at if they take your insurance or not. That's a big thing. If they don't take your insurance, do they have a sliding scale fee? What are their treatment modalities? Do they just do CBT? Do they do EMDR? Do they do DBT? Do they do expressive arts? Do you know what CBT, DBT, EMDR are? Like, do you know what those things are? Um, some people might want to work with Black men, or they might want to work with white men or white women or Black women. They might want a therapist who is LGBTQIA plus, or they might want a clinician who is neurodivergent. So there are several different websites that you can go to for specific, and you can utilize filters to actually help find and filter out certain people that you might not want to be as your clinician. So, like Psychology Today is a really popular one. Psychology Today, you can just put in your city and what state you're in, and you'll see a list of clinicians just pop up. Now, if you use the filter, you can click on, well, I'm dealing with depression. I want somebody who deals with Black men. I want to do virtual and in-person sessions, you know, and I have, let's say, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So you can click all of those things, and a list of clinicians meeting all those criteria will pop up. Now, the downside of that is a lot of people might not be listed on Psychology Today. So you can always use Google. Google is great. Therapists in my area. And you can
Mhm.
start looking up people that way. Word of mouth is spectacular. If you have a friend or a coworker, whomever, who is utilizing a therapeutic journey, you can always talk to them. It's like, hey, who do you talk to? Who do you recommend when it comes to X, Y, or Z? Social media, while social media is a good way for therapists to advertise who they are and their services, but a lot of times people will try to get therapy from social media therapists who have absolutely no training,
Oh,
which can be harmful. And oh, my therapist said this, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that I'm your therapist. And it's just like, and this is not a substitute for you actually going into an office and talking to someone. I tell people, when you're looking for therapists, try to find 3 to 5 therapists that you like. Out of those 3 to 5 therapists, see which ones offer free consultations and talk to each and every one of them. See if they have openings, see what their styles are, see how if they can meet during the times that you can actually meet, and get a feel for them, because like you're the biggest advocate for you when it comes to it. It's like we shop for cars. We don't just pick the first car that we find. We test drive a few before we find the right one. Same thing with shoes. We don't just put on the first pair of shoes that we see. We try on to be sure that they're a good fit. It's the same thing with therapists. Try a few, see who's out there, check them out. Just because you had one bad experience doesn't mean that every experience that you have is going to be horrible. You know, I've had several people say, "Man, I ain't never I've done therapy before and it was horrible, horrible." Okay, well, I'm not that therapist that you had before. I do this a whole lot differently. I show up just like this, Corey. This is how I show up, and I show up in my t-shirt. I have my J's on, and we will sit there and we'll just chat like we've been friends forever. And a lot of times that makes people feel really comfortable and they can be themselves. And you just see the shoulders just drop, you know, and they just start opening up and just like start letting everything out.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point when you say, I've been there before, it didn't work out good. In a little sense, it's kind of like the church. People
Yeah.
get church hurt, right? I've been
Mm-hmm.
there, it didn't go well. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes therapy ends up being that same way, but it's
Mm-hmm.
good that you're able to say, yes, that was a bad experience, validating how they felt, but
Yep.
letting them know, like, I'm different, this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
different, and then
Mm-hmm.
making them feel welcome. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Now, whenever we were talking or you were making reference to, doing therapy with Black men,
Mm-hmm.
for individuals, even such as myself,
Mm-hmm.
who are either providing, psychotherapy or medication management,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that we should consider when we're dealing with that population?
Well, a lot of it is just like there's always going to be a stigma around people just wanting to help. They're gonna think that you have ulterior motives, or they're gonna think that you can't help them. So it's going to be what's the best way to say it? There's going to be some rapport building that needs to be done. They have to trust that you are going to that you have their best interest at heart. They have to trust that you're not going to bring any kind of harm to them. They have to trust that you are a real person and you're going to do what you say you're going to do. you know that's key. One of the things one of the things they told us in grad schools, don't ever self-disclose. You don't ever need to self-disclose and all this type of stuff. And to that I say no, you're wrong. Because how are these people going to recognize that you're a real person, especially if you're working with Black men and first responders? How am I going to know that you can handle my stuff if you ain't never been through the stuff that I've been through? How am I going to know that you can handle, you know, my struggles if you don't know what it's like to wake up and have sleep for dinner? How am I going to recognize that you can help me out if you don't know what it's like to, run inside of a burning building and you pull the baby out who's no longer breathing, but your parents are screaming and yelling at you to do something for them, you know? And it's one of those things is like they have to trust you. They have to feel comfortable enough to be themselves around you. And if you go in there, you're so textbook like, how does it make you feel all during the session? If you're going in there like that, they ain't going they're not going to give you the time of day.
Okay,
You know what I'm
good.
saying? So it's just like I think one of the things that has worked for me is I keep it very real with them. It's like I'm not very professional, Corey. I'm not gonna lie to you. I cuss in my sessions. I will listen to hip hop in sessions. We'll box in sessions. We'll do all kinds of things because that's what my client needs.
Now that's different. I've never seen anybody boxing during a session, so
Mm-hmm.
that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sounds good. Good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's been great talking to you. You've dropped some great jewels, right? And for individuals who are really, really considering therapy and they feel like, hey, this person might be a good fit, I'm open to reaching out to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how our viewers can reach you.
Well, you can always check out my website, www.thedopeblackTherapist.com. That has all of my information as far as how to get in contact with me, how to set up a session with me, how to set up a consultation with me, or if you're looking for someone to do a speaking event for you, you can hire me for that as well. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram is the_dope black therapist. I put a lot of information out there, a lot of how to's and what to expect and how to show up in certain areas and stuff. It's not, I don't fluff it up. If I'm having a bad day, I will post that I'm having a bad day and how I manage and get through that bad day. That's why I also post, when I have my men's groups, or if I'm having a Sunday workout where we can all get together and fellowship and do wellness and everything together. you know that's where you'll see all of the information on my social media. You'll also see it on my website. Those are the best ways to get up with me. That's how you can find me out there. Everything is there. Everything
All
is
right.
there.
Good stuff. So, again, for those of you who are considering therapy, know that there is a place for you. Know that there are resources available. Know that there are people that look like you and they really do care about your overall well being. So,
Absolutely.
again, Blaise, thank you so much for taking your time out today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Corey.